This is the story of one man's journey across America, from the upper Midwest to the Western Sea. I journaled it over the course of 20 years, and later converted it into poetry. It offers witness to the beauty of this land and of the hand of God in the midst of creation. My love of which was shaped both by my church upbringing and by the writings of Henry David Thoreau, and not least by the rugged natural beauty of my native place, the Keweenaw Peninsula, that strip of land which juts out into the heart of Lake Superior. Like Thoreau's New England, its rocky glacial terrain is surrounded in water and has 4 distinct seasons. It's also known for its rich deposits of native copper, whence it gets its popular name the Copper Country, molded in copper. I remember that October when I drove to Ontonagon, down the rugged backbone of these ancient mountains, worn away to hills now, aglow with autumn's colors as with molten fire, like the rich red metal which runs through their veins. Now I bank the fires within, the hot creative passion born of memory and vision of the places I have been, the beauty I have seen on this my native shore and the shoreline of the sea. That it may be transformed, recast in the molten ore of the imagination, to be poured forth again with typewriter and pen, or in painting or sculpture. Trying to capture the soul of its features, the spirit of a place, or a beloved face etched in the deep red light of sunset. For I owe a debt of beauty, I cannot help but feel a sense of call and duty toward these gifts given me, for the love of form and color, autumn's tapestries all along the road, and just outside my window. For the crunch of crystal snow where my wandering feet go. For the clean unbroken ecstasy to touch, to hear, to feel, and see in communion with these elements, the divine stuff of creation, the holy all around me. I want to be its temple, my mind its pedestal, my work to be its witness, its spirit's second skin. To enfold it all within and unfold it again in still greater perfection. To take these things of earth and lift them up to heaven. My mother was a poet, a lover of nature, my father was a sculptor who cast metal figures. And I am their son and a son of this country, all of my memories molded in copper. I might have been content to stay there for life, had I not caught a glimpse of wider worlds beyond. It was in the midst of my 17th summer that my father hitched the wagon and trailer and started the long, incredible journey into for me undiscovered country, the mountains, and the Western Sea. Now it all comes back to me, south into the land of Lincoln, crossing the wide blue Heartland River, St. Louis, the Gateway Arch, sign of our restless westward march. The rolling hills of eastern Kansas, frozen swells in a sea of green, watching the sun rise over a hilltop, climbing its grassy slopes to see a land afire with glittering sapphire, ponds and lakes and wildflower glories jeweled in dew, everything new, prairie stretching to the horizon, golden wheat, a great sea of grain waving beneath a bright yellow sun, a silvery shroud hangs in the west, crystal droplets dancing on glass, diffusing into a pearly glow, threaded with sunlight. Clearing to blue. The breathtaking sight of a great double rainbow. The wind's wild music, songs of the summits whose piney freshness they rumor below. Rain-soaked sky and shadowy foothills looming enormously out of the gray, a labored ascent upgrade in low gear, the scent of pine in the cold mountain air, cleansing awareness, waking senses I didn't even know I had. Setting up camp as the sky was clearing, beholding crystal starlight glories sparkling through the evergreens, sleeping beneath their templed spires. Awakening to raucous jays, a gorgeous Colorado day. Narrow roads and winding switchbacks, hanging cliffs, and bulging rock face, rushing waters, massive boulders, narrowing steep river canyons opening to long green valleys stretching onto the horizon. Southwest desert, red rock country, massive monuments of sandstone sculpted clean by wind and water, cut and polished into facets, gleaming red and bronze in sunset. Mesa Verde, ancient dwellings carved into the naked cliff face. Walking through the camp at night, youthful faces lit by lamplight, flickerings of tribal fires beneath a diamond desert sky, the subtle, shifting pastel tones of the lovely painted desert, silver yellow in the morning, soft blue violet at evening, gazing over the Grand Canyon, distances the eye can't measure, heights and depths the mind can't fathom, rock and sky and wind and silence. Stone cathedral spires and temples, many contoured faces painted all the colors of the rainbow, intricately carved inscriptions revealed in changing light and shadow. Language, could one only read it? The rolling hills of the Central Coast, winding roads on the towering slopes of Big Sur, where the mountains run to the sea. Fog in the headlights, dangerous, thrilling, hugging the unknown edge of the world. Silvery sunlight bursting through cover, etching the face of a glittering ocean, vast and beautiful to the horizon, the hills and shoreline of San Francisco, most beautiful city I've ever seen, towering bridges spanning the waters, rising up out of a silver-white dream. Massive columns thrust from the earth, towering crowns half piercing the sky. The deep green groves of sheltering redwoods, ferns, and mist and fragrance of resin, the hush of feet on spongy needles and the rush of wind song high in the branches like the sound of crashing surf in the distance, a resonant music more felt than heard. Cool, salty winds blown fresh from the sea at the farthest westward point of the journey, spray-soaked rocks hanging with moss, a thundering roar through silvery mist, billowing breakers pounding on cliffs in a rhythm unbroken through eons of time, a near, holy presence, breathing, alive, a deep inner space where I started to feel that I've always lived here, and always will. On graduating from college I was torn between my attachment to the land I called home and my growing itch to go see these places again, this time as a budding journalist and writer. I had relatives in Denver, so I decided to make a start there. One rainy morning I boarded the bus to Chicago and thence across the American heartland. But it seemed different this time. I had begun to pay closer attention to things, to the economic dimension, to the contours of the land and how much we've altered it to suit our own purposes. It began in northern Wisconsin, where the Northwoods gives way to farmland. Now I begin to sense a change, it all begins to look the same, like the features of the land have been stamped out by the hand of some mindless machine. So efficient, so Germanic, so Lutheran, the Protestant ethic carried to the last extreme, where even nature has to earn a living in order to justify the expenditure of valuable sunlight. Neon signs, commercial strips, easy this and quick that. Even the English language has been chopped to bits, ground to patties, flash fried, frozen, and boxed up in disposable cartons like these cardboard excuses for hamburgers. The melting pot is having a meltdown. The flavor is gone, the vital substance drained, and so our bodies and our brains, for are we not what we think and eat? The last open spaces are closing up. The houses are built back to back, effacing the last of the natural landscape. Gleaming white buildings, sprawling malls, schools and libraries, parks and beltways, sprawling development on the freeways. I had to see it with my own eyes, how everything exists to serve the cities, how the all-consuming central power schemes off the cream, gathers the treasure, grows rich and sleek off the fat of my homeland, the lives and labors of its people. Yet there remains a beauty that they cannot take. Now the brawny grey city rises before me, assaulting the eyes, storming the senses. Rails haul freight and commuters to business, vehicles fill the land and sky, traffic flows in roaring rivers, thunderous jets ascending and landing, the world is sucked into a vortex, a cavernous engine gulping in everything, everything the land brings forth for 1,000 miles, crops and commodities, ore and fuel, machinery, know-how, people. Approaching the city's concrete core, pillars of glass and steel thrust upward as by some unnatural force of nature, challenging the heavens, piercing the sky. Ant-like figures scurry down cold grey windy canyons seldom warmed by the sun. A metal bird stands fixed in a plaza, a bell tolls 6 from a Gothic steeple. A flock of pigeons takes to wing, the last remaining living thing save this lonely little tree. Yet there is a kind of energy, a pulse, a close electric humming of engines, wheels, and clacking heels, a symphony of rubber and steel which makes the blood run fast. Now the terminal, our destination, a veritable United Nations, a cross-section of humanity, a mankind in perpetual motion towards some collective destiny which I can't make out for the life of me, driving on into the heartland darkness, dimming aisle lights, sagging heads, the purr of the engine our lone pilgrim's lullaby as we cross the wide and starless night. 1,000 miles from anything I know, heading for a place I've never seen. I listen to the sound of rain on the glass, feel a close embracing stillness. A voice speaks softly, or is it distant thunder? Violet flickerings on the horizon, sudden stabbing forks of light reveal the features of the land. Thunderheads like burning mountains, terrible glories of the plains, letting loose a driving rain, winds rattling the window panes, swaying us from side to side down the shining ribbon road. Ship upon the prairie, sailors lost at sea, will we find safe harbor at our journey's end? Now the shining Mississippi, midpoint of our journey. Trees give way to open spaces browned and yellowed by the sun, grasslands stretching to the horizon. The winding floodplains of the shallow Platte, boring, featureless and flat. The body locked in straits, the mind goes wandering in circles without beginning or end. No sense of time, ahead is behind, where we're going is where we've been. Are we moving? Does Nebraska ever end? I try to look beyond the present, see beyond the veil of time, see this land as it might have been before the barbed wire and the trains, when bison roamed in herds of millions, thundering hooves and clouds of dust, shaggy coats and breath of frost, a river of life unbanked, untamed, flowing all across the plain. Now a few fat burger cows look up at me forlornly. Wild flowers bloomed in red and gold, all the colors of the rainbow. Prairie dogs in bustling towns digging tunnels in the ground, barking and basking in the sun. Coyote and wolf had their fill of game, the hawk had the freedom of the skies. And the peoples of the plain planted beans, squash and maize, lifting songs of thanks and praise to the Creator of all of these, whose goodness they knew by more than creed. Now our silos are full to overflowing, but we cannot hear the song. The land is silent, and all of that is gone. What have we done? My God, what have we done? God and Father of creatures and men, earth our mother, embracing and wise, open these hearts and blinded eyes that we and our children may yet see the glory which once was and yet could be, the beauty that was and yet will be. If my voice, these offered prayers, the cries of the beasts and the blood of the martyrs of the earth can still reach heaven, if there still be justice beneath the sun. Can these bones live again? Thou knowest, Lord. I speak to bleached bones, scattered feathers, drifting seeds, dulled hearts and minds. Rise up and be filled with breath. Prophet of the ghost dance, I pray that you were right. In the latter days of the 19th century, when the buffalo were being slaughtered, and with them a way of life the people of the plains had known for centuries, the Paiute prophet Wovoka, influenced both by the Bible and by his own people's prophetic tradition, dreamed that if the people would fast, pray, and perform a ritual dance, the works of destruction would soon be swept away and the earth be restored to be the lasting inheritance of the people and of all who had loved her. A dream of universal renewal and restoration. It begins with an act of reimagining, of reperceiving. Tell me something of this place, of the hidden sacred landscape, of what it must have been like to have seen it for the first time. When the mountain peaks had faces and the rocks had their own voices, nearer when the world began. Tell again the ancient stories of the ones who here lie buried, all the souls who lived and died here, loved and dreamed, laughed and cried here before we came upon the scene with our concrete and machines, and what we call history ended the great story dream. Over the next 4 years I observed the great broad faces of the Front Range of the Colorado Rockies, Long's Peak to the north, Mount Evans to the west, Pikes Peak to the south, displayed in all weather and seasons. In the changing hues of morning and evening, etched in shifting light and shadow, revealed in every mood and season. Violet, gold, and magenta in dawn light, clear and bright with the glory of morning, its diamond ridges, clean sharp lines, and rippled shoulders dotted with pines, its rolling snowfields shadowed in blue, come silvery bright in the blazing noon. When thunder broods on its darkening brow, purple-gray beneath burgeoning clouds, in patches of light as the storm concludes, painting the cliffs in glowing hues, in the ruggedness of its broad silhouette purpled against a red blazing sunset, melting into deep blue violet. Every moment a new revelation, and no 2 moments ever the same. Yet through it all the mountain remains the mountain, and I begin to question. However I try to form a clear picture, memorize details, grasp every feature, the truth is not so easily captured. It has to be felt and taken within, in laboring upward with burning lungs, naked to wind and the blazing sun, in the granite hardness pounding my feet, in the fragrance of pines filling my sleep, in the awe that I feel when I gaze from below on seemingly endless reaches of snow. I speak to it and it speaks to me as of some common blood and ancestry, father and mother, sister and brother, some part of myself, and yet another, the stuff of what I am, of what he is, some subtle energy passing between us. There is only one way to find out. To go there. To go and seek a vision of my own, 14,000 feet in the air, laboring slowly toward the summit, panting fire, my chest a throbbing drumbeat, heavy-limbed, dizzy, I must continue. Striving to gain the highest vantage, the one pointed center which I lost sight of in the whirling choking dust of the plain, stifled breath and clouded vision. I must ascend to the Holy and One, where there is only rock, sky, and sun. I see the top, spiny and narrow, a tenuous foothold but barely fit for a mountain goat, much less a man, and yet I've made it. Here I stand. Intensity, wonder, fear, amazement, trying to grasp the glory around me, all creation leaping, shining, shouting as one, holy, holy. Ragged clouds race over the sky like foaming breakers, swift white stallions with outstretched neck and streaming mane, the blazing solar disk in their train. He wraps himself in light as with a garment, he stretches out the heavens like a tent and lays the beams of his upper chambers on their waters. He makes the clouds his chariot and rides on the wings of the wind. He makes wind his messengers, flames of fire his servants. And I would join in this mighty chorus of praise, try to make some response to the terrible beauty arrayed all around, but even my thoughts are snatched by the winds, ripped away like the breath from my lips and hurled down howling canyon passageways. My mind is bared, my thoughts stunned to silence by this shouting awesome vastness, ocean sky. I cling like a butterfly, inching forward, turned from the blast, so blinded by tears that I can barely glimpse the passing glory. I must have climbed too near the sun. I get off the ridge and kneel down behind it, take refuge in the shadow of his wings. I stand upon the shore of the spirit lake, bathed in the bright high country sunlight, breathing in cold air from the summits, watching the winds blow shimmering patterns, a million diamond suns on the waters. This clear mountain lake, a wide, serene mirror uniting earth and heaven together. Now I see that the world indeed is born of fire and ice, sun, rock, and sky, a unity, a symmetry of soaring peaks and canyons, their interlocking ecstasy engendering worlds. How clear virgin water mediates between them, polishing, lifting all things below to reflect and hold all things above, how it softens and readies the earth to bear heaven's own seed and image here. O Spirit, how could I have wandered so far from the vision, so far from you? I tend to forget, just as we all do. The years go by, bright memories dim. But I can still recall the first time I breathed the sparkling air of this country, sleeping out under a black virgin sky, hearing the night winds rustle the pines finely etched in the silvery starlight. The deep sweet calm of them reaching down to the very roots of sleep and dream. And waking again on the morning of mornings to blue-winged jays, a bright mountain day. But back in the city the faces of the peaks are often shrouded by a yellow-brown haze which kills the colors and dulls the senses. One had might as well be dead. I grew restless to leave. Once more I felt the call of the sea. So, 5 days before Christmas, 1981, I set out with a day pack and bedroll, standing on the side of the freeway. My first ride took me into New Mexico. New Mexico, land of enchantment. Duff yellow flatlands, golden brown sandstone painted in sunset, glowing reddish orange and violet, etched with the lengthening shadows of night as evening spreads its cooling hand and deep blue twilight blankets the land. Soothing, forgetful as sleep by the roadside, bedroll in a gully, sweater for a pillow, wind in the sagebrush, stars all around me, nothing else moving, not even a soul. Now I'm on my way at last. Southwest desert, sacred high country, glowing mountains across the horizon, bordering heaven, silvery edges, red painted sandstone, long, sculpted ridges, firefall colors, canyons, and mesas, diamond facets, the land's many faces. Clouds like a headdress hanging with feathers, necklace of silver, turquoise, and amber, sit on an outcrop, sky all around me, join with the moment, one pointed center, hear myself singing to the directions, four holy winds calling to aid me, silent thunderings off in the distance, bright holy presence, shining white wingtips, brushing against me, whispering softly, look to the mountains, life-giving spirits, ancestral dwellings never forsaken, be still and know. On into Phoenix, across the Sonoran Desert, and into California, rounding a high mountain pass as the sun was setting into the western sea. A sight I'll never forget, wide Pacific shining waters, blazing sunset thousand colors, shadow-sculpted hills and ridges, purple valleys, golden grasses. Clouds ablaze with scarlet fire, molten gold and liquid amber, gleaming channel, rippled waters, oyster shell, and pastel color. Silvered hills and misty mountains melting softly in the distance. Islands hanging in the brightness where the waters meet the heavens. At last I reached my goal. I returned to this place where I once heard the music, the shores of the shining blue Pacific, this beautiful land of the wild surf and wind song for which my heart has ever longed. The song echoes still in the rhythms around me, the circling sun and the gulls in their wheelings, the pulse of the tides, the surf on the shoreline. The face of the sea is smooth and shiny, rippled, repainted from moment to moment by the slanting rays of the setting sun. A bright ray shines through the center of vision at the heart of the world which pulses within me, strains of music from inside the doorway, calling me to enter and follow. White turns to gold upon burnished breakers radiant to the western horizon. But to the east the white caps are glowing, milky silver on blue-violet shadow, the full moon rising over the mountains. Brother sun setting and sister moon rising. I raise along with them my song of rejoicing, praise and thanks to the ultimate artist who sings forth the canticle of creation, sun, moon, and stars, winds and waters, the rocks of the earth and the fires of heaven, in the radiant hues of borderless visions. And includes me in this one, who somehow knew the time and the place where the moment would find me, my thoughts, feelings, unique point of vantage woven into the fabric from the beginning. Now it seems to me I created it with him, like wisdom delighting in the first morning, a child with a crayon, seeing, exploring, coloring in this broad living canvas in joyful communion with all the living. Eventually I settled on the west side of Los Angeles. Not my original intention, but the place grew on me. What drew me, and led me to stay for 20 years, was the inspiration and encouragement of so many like-minded creatives, including several church fellowships which went in for outdoor activities, like a group camp on Big Sur. The sacred bards and psalmists once more walked upon the mountains. It reminds me of a Navajo-style prayer chant. We walk in beauty where the mountains meet the sea. We walk in beauty where the shining river runs. We walk in beauty where the green meadows roll. We walk in beauty where the wildflowers bloom. We walk in beauty where the sea winds blow. We walk in beauty where the wild breakers roar. We walk in beauty where the seabirds fly. We walk in beauty where the sea lions lay. We walk in beauty where the redwoods soar. We walk in beauty where heaven touches earth. Land, sea, and sky, body, mind and spirit, heart with living heart, God walking with us. Still, I often felt lost and out of place in the city. It's something hard to put your finger on. It's not just me, it's everybody. Does anyone know that these urban deserts of steel, glass, and concrete were once living forest, pasture and wetland? That wildflowers shine and that stars sing above us, that the songs of the birds are the voice of the forest? That the earth is alive, the mountains, the rivers, everything dancing and dreaming together? That these symbols we use once had power and meaning, born of the earth, the dancing, and dreaming? Does anyone know that hundreds of millions of refugee peoples uprooted, alone in the streets of these cities, trapped in poverty, tyranny, hunger, nevertheless have their own dreams and stories? These silenced hearts, these words left unspoken, unformed worldhoods, promises broken. Masks of clay, these blank, staring faces, denied self-expression, self-determination. They cry in and through me for liberation. I fight to release the wings of these angels bound up in the earth and the silence of strangers, to give voice to the cries lost in deafening silence, the clashing of gears, the roaring of engines, the everyday business of buying and selling, our daily unseeings, unfeelings, unknowings. There must be a place, a sacred center, some bright space we may meet in together, a place where each one is named and remembered. I know you, you know me, the one dwells among us. Maybe it's a matter of getting your eyes open. Or your heart. I am trying so hard to see and to live from that part of me which is akin to everything. To somehow touch the heart, the inner secret truth of things. Painful, that awakening. The healing of the eyes takes years, is not accomplished without tears. Tears to melt the separateness, the many walls we build between us. Sad it is, but don't you know that rain-washed windows best reveal the soul? The soul. The jewel of the soul, forming within the deep hidden places, born out of silence and dream, of the dreamer. Can you hear? Can you see? I can begin to. The heat and the pressure, the fiery furnace of conflicts unseen, unshared, unsuspected in times spent alone when no one could reach you, lost in the dark. The lines on your face tell. Yet this beauty emerging before me layer on layer, facet by facet, this deep-wrought miracle flashing in sunlight, This infinite treasure, how comprehend it? Although the darkness has not understood it, the light has again taken tangible substance of body and mind, of soul and spirit, both yours and mine. I see a reflection. The treasure I've sought for, wandering endless, appears to my eye, unfolding within us. Why can't we see each other? Why can't we see the beauty within ourselves, the world, and others? Too many thoughts get in the way. Too many opinions and perspectives we've adopted from others, rather than learning to see with our own eyes. Too many internalized judgments. Too many lies we've come to believe. And the world mirrors it all back to us. The mirror of the mind needs to be cleaned through deep observation, reflection, and meditation. Art and poetry can be such a meditation. Like sitting by calm waters. Like walking beside a clear mountain stream, may I always walk beside this flashing stream, may its silvered currents flow through all my veins. Wash away the falsehood, take away the lies, shred the fear illusions covering these eyes. Break the walls of rage encasing my perception. Open up my heart to receive your inspiration. Let me love the living, beautiful around me. Help me live the vision you have placed within me. May my thoughts reflect the ripples of this stream, flowing ever onward to eternity. Or take a walk beside the ocean. Walk until you are one with the rhythm of the tides, until sun, wind and wave wash the soul clean. Until there comes that moment when a greater light breaks through. A veil has lifted. I stand transparent to colors alive in the air all around me. The elements, colors, forms all around begin to speak in a bright, wordless language, uttering being in tones clear and vibrant. Dissolving divisions, revealing a oneness, a seamless perception, a unitive vision. The world is an eye and I stand in its center, entering into those wide inner spaces reached through the heart and free intuition. Gulls shine bright in the blue above me, blue beyond deep heaven blue, like I've never seen blue before, only its shadow. Flocks of mallards in colorful feather float weightless upon the quicksilver waters, each rippled reflection a radiant presence filling and overflowing awareness. The world is a living, luminous window transparent to wider, brighter dimensions. There's a light within light, a color in color, images in images, a sun within the sun, an eye in the eye which suddenly opens and wakes to the light when healing comes, and will fully wake in that ultimate healing when we look out on the soul's native country. Then we will see the blue of the ocean, the green of spring, the scarlet of autumn, the violet burnings, the gold of the sunset as they are in their essence, that radiance we glimpse in these brief, shining moments. All fullness revealed, all rifts fused together, all wounds become fountains of life's healing virtue. Hearts joined in symphony, vision a unity. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God, the Lord is one. Morning comes. I walk the strand, half blinded by the blowing sand, blazing solar crystal winds singing like a living whirlwind, tossing foaming spray and rainbows, all the way to Oceano. Diamond waters fire dance as I walk in rhythm trance. Brightly painted buildings hang off the shifting borderland between the gleaming sky and sea, all the world dissolves in glory. And I glimpse a laughing face in the flashing wind and waves, and a voice within the living whirlwind all around me singing, "Arise, my love, my fair one, come away." So did this beautiful land and surrounding sea become a living part of me. It informs my thought and poetry, no less than does the place I grew up in. I thought I'd never leave. But with the passing years I began to feel the call of home. It became stronger and stronger until I knew I had to return. Heading north and home again, the woods of northern Michigan. I hope and pray that this green land will open itself to me again, a native son long gone away. May it lend me strength when I walk its paths, breathe its air, drink its colors, gaze upon its sparkling waters. May the beauty I remember come back when I need it most. So far have I wandered, so far have I come. May this my native country be again my home. On arriving I set out to explore all my favorite places. A wooded lakeshore back of town where I often used to go, the old shoreline is much the same, though carpeted in thicker green. Scrubby oak and maple seedlings, 30 years of growth and leafing. I cannot find the paths I took, or where I sat to read a book. But the birds are flying round, uttering their evening sounds. So many live upon this shore. Or maybe I just notice more. The kingbird on his sunny branch, darting forth to make a catch, a swallow gliding near the lake, startling these eyes awake, swooping now among the trees, brighter than a memory. Now I see. There is a healing. I'm in my 60s now. Time moves on and brings many changes, not all of them pleasant. But there is a beauty that time does not destroy, which remains even amid the changes. Is all the more beautiful because of them. This new and ancient land, ever changing, ever new, scoured by ice and snow, washed in wind and rain, rising up each morning sparkling new again. Now locked in cold and gray, now shining like a diamond in the northern sun. Long ago one midsummer's eve I climbed the stone stairway to be nearer to the stars shining brightly in the cold, clear northern air. Polaris and the Dipper, Orion, and the Pleiades, the glowing band of the Milky Way spanning the deep black vault of night. Starfire flashing across the edge of sight, the beauty of the northern lights, their soft green fire falling upon the dark horizon waters, where silent freighters pass in the night. Maybe you have to lose a thing and find it again in order to truly appreciate it. Go on a journey and come back again, before you can begin to know where you are. Climb a mountain or hilltop in order to get the wider view. And the higher you climb, the wider the view. There may be no limit to what may be seen and known. No limit except our own limited perspective. Creation itself is not so limited. Nor is the Creator. My hometown scene unfolds below, church, school, courthouse in a row, and those 4 houses in a row where I lived so long ago. I just saw them, they're so small. But I was only 3 feet tall. Portage channels shining blue winds between green hills and through the contours of the towns below, as it did so long ago. The silver towers of the bridge were framed against this verdant ridge whenever I looked out my window, heart, and crossroads of my world when I was nearer to the ground. I'd never seen what lay beyond, but the beauty that I saw was mine, and it was enough for a time. My world is so much wider now, the mountain skies of Colorado, the golden shores of California, Europe, even India. I've traveled clear across the globe, this earth the only home I know. Yet as I stand upon this hill I suddenly can't help but feel that someday even earth may seem a faded relic or a dream. A place to come back and remember, walk the streets and say, I lived here. This tiny spinning blue-green ball was all my world when I was small, all I ever knew and loved. All its beauty was as mine, and it was enough for a time. But I may well have to say then that I'd never have imagined the glories that yet lay beyond, all the endless seas of God. The poetry of Song of Ascents is taken from my book by the same title, available on Amazon.com. Click the link below. I have also posted it on my WordPress blog, see link below. I hope you enjoyed it.